Hey you guys, it's Lauren. Welcome back. So today's going to be part 3 of the best and the worst of the TikTok recommendations. In these videos, I let you know if these recommendations are actually worth your time. And I have some really good picks today. I found my new favorite rom-com. I had such a good time with this one book, and some not so great ones, some controversial books, but we're gonna have lots of fun today. I will include star ratings today. I know one of you guys suggested that in my last video. You thought you would find it helpful. So I will start to do that. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and get right into it. All right, so the first book I wanted to recommend to you guys, this is one of the best romance books, I feel like, that is recommended still time and time again all over TikTok. I still see this popping up when people talk about summer romances, and that is It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This is my new favorite rom-com. Wow, was this good. I found myself smiling the entire time. It was just such a fun book. I love that it's just essentially a no-frills romance. It was easy. They were super spontaneous. There wasn't much of a slow burn. Their romantic relationship happens pretty quickly, but you still have that like flirty aspect throughout the entire book. But this is the story of Brendan. He is a deep sea fisherman. So you have the blue collar guy that meets the LA rich socialite influencer type that is of a rich family. Her dad is a movie producer. He actually sends her to Brendan's fishing town to work in an old family bar that she ends up fixing up. But I think what made this book so fun and easy, it was that easy, non-forced relationship. These were just two people that were unapologetically attracted to each other from the start. And I love how Brendan accepts Piper for who she is. Piper is definitely more of like a self-deprecating character, and she comes down on herself a lot, and he just accepts her for who she is. He really builds up her confidence in this, and I love Piper's progression in this story as well. Also, her sister Hannah too is so funny in this. There's lots of LOL moments, but their whole relationship was so spontaneous, and I loved their growth in this. The ending was great. Love this so much. Definitely a recommend for a good summer read. Love this. All right, so next up, let's talk about The Winter Garden by Kristen Hanna. So Kristen Hanna is easily becoming one of my favorite authors. I love The Four Winds. I love The Women. The Winter Garden, however, was not my favorite. Sorry to say. I thought this was very dry at times, very dull. The Winter Garden is essentially a story of grief and losing your parents. So I wish I would have read some of these trigger warnings at first, because I don't think I would have delved into this book. So this is the story of Meredith and Nina. They both lose their father, and they're left with their cold, miserable Russian mom who barely speaks to them, who growing up never really had a great relationship with them. They were always really close to their dad. So it's really sad that their dad ends up passing away, and then they're left to care for their miserable, cold mother. But it actually ends up being a really beautiful story in the end. There's nice resolution in the end. So I did enjoy the ending. I did bawl my eyes out in the end. Oh my gosh, the ending was definitely like heart-wrenching, but the middle of the story, I just could not get through. The base of the story is actually the mother connecting with her two girls in the fact that she tells this fairy tale story. She's always told this story throughout her life to the girls, and it was always this question of whether or not this story had some real life significance to it, or was it just this made up story? So it did keep you engaged in that sense, because it leaves you guessing, but I felt my mind drifting every time there would be these snippets of the mother telling the girls this story. I would just drift off. I would have to reread parts. I couldn't get into the actual fairy tale aspect of this. And the actual snippets of this fairy tale is about almost like 25% of the book. So yeah, I could not get into this at all. I felt like it was such a bore. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people say this is a great book by her and say that it's a very underrated book by her. And I can see why, because the message is there. It is a beautiful story, but I was bored. All right, next up, if you're looking for an easy thriller read, Never Lie by Frida McFadden. I love this. This is definitely a psychological thriller that is a staple read for those psychological thriller readers out there. This was just a no frills, not a whole heck of character development, which is a common theme in a lot of Frida McFadden's stories. but this was a page turner. Oh my gosh, I could not put this down. So this is the story of two newlyweds, Trisha and Ethan. They're house hunting and they look at a house of a missing psychiatrist, Dr. Adrienne Hall. She went missing 4 years ago, and they go look at her house when she's still considered a missing person. And then when they're looking at her home, some suspicious, alarming things start to happen. And then, don't you know, conveniently, they get snowed in at her house. And with that said, I will say there was some plot holes in this for me. Like, you're going house hunting and you don't look at the weather, so that was kind of bugged me. And there was a couple other plot holes in this too that stood out to me. But even with the plot holes, I found this to be a really fun read. It was fast paced. I couldn't put it down, and it really pulls you in with a lot of the cassette tapes that are found in the home. So Trisha actually stumbles upon this room full of all these cassette tapes, and I'm not spoiling anything here, by the way. This is in the synopsis, but she stumbles upon this room of these interviews from all her older patients, and those tapes are like so dramatic, so just alarming in their nature, and you just want to keep reading to learn what happened to these patients. So it really grabs you. I really enjoyed this read. Were there plot holes? Yes, there were, but fun read nonetheless. All right, so next up, we're going to talk about one of the most controversial, polarizing reads on TikTok, and that is Credence by Penelope Douglas. Whoo, man, was this a steamy, dark romance? Wow. People either love this or they hate this. I will tell you what I think in the end of this review. I will say I was kind of a mixed bag at first, but then I came to a definitive conclusion at the end of this. So this is the story of Tiernan, who is a daughter of a celebrity couple in LA. She loses her parents in a joint suicide. She finds both of their bodies. No suicide note is left, but it is in her will that she'll go under the care of her step-uncle Jake. Step-uncle Jake lives in some northern town in Colorado in the middle of the mountains, and Tiernan doesn't know much about Jake. She does know that he's a distant relative, not blood related, and he has two sons, Noah and Caleb. And she has to go live with these three adult men because she's not quite 18. She'll turn 18 in 6 months, so she's still underage. So she goes to Uncle Jake's house, and he has these two adult boys, and they're dominating personalities, to say the least. The book is very spicy, so that is all I will say there. So you can kind of see where this goes and why this is controversial, because they're distant relatives, but they're not blood related. So you definitely have that ick factor. Now, I will say from the start, I could see why there was an ick factor, but I will say this kept me intrigued. Up until the 50% mark, I was like turning these pages. I could not wait to find out what happened to these characters. It's that car accident that you cannot look away from. But even though I was into this at the beginning, I could not connect the romantic relationship between any of these characters. Like, I was not rooting for anybody in this book whatsoever, and that was my problem with this book. Even in the end, I wasn't really happy for either of them, just because, especially of how the one character treated the other character. I'm like, what? Why is this happening this way? So yeah, I did have a good time with the beginning of this book. It is polarizing. You have to be okay with that forbidden love taboo aspect. But I feel like a lot of this book was just sensational just to be sensational. Like, they kept mentioning the fact that Jake was Uncle Jake in every scene, and they kept talking about quote unquote cousins when they were talking about Noah and Caleb, even though they weren't blood related. So if Penelope like did away with that towards the middle of the book and just kept like reiterating like, okay, there's no blood relation here, we never met before, and then you would start to root for their relationships, but the fact that she kept bringing up that familial aspect just was such a turnoff for me. I kept thinking to myself, okay, stop reminding us, and my mind won't go there. But my mind kept going there, and I had the ick the whole time. It was fun in the beginning. I will say I had such a good time. I'm like, oh, I can see why this is controversial, but I'm kind of enjoying this here. What's wrong with me? But towards the end, I'm like, yeah, I get why people didn't really like this. It was a fun read towards about the middle, and then you're kind of over it. It was drawn out too. I was kind of done by midway through. I'm like, okay, I get the big picture here. So I would not recommend this. I give this a 2 stars on Goodreads. Was it fun? Maybe so. If you're into that dark romance aspect and you're not really looking for like a warm and fuzzy ending, maybe you would enjoy this, but for me, it wasn't for me. Next book is Funny You Should Ask by Alyssa Sussman. I love this book. This was such a good time. So if you're into the whole LA celebrity scene, and I mean, who's really not, right? I feel like that whole scene is so intriguing. I actually did a travel nursing assignment in LA with my husband way back when, before we had kids. So I still feel like this connection to that whole Hollywood scene. So I always love reading about it. And this book was such a good time. I loved it. So you meet writer Chani. She is a 20-something living in LA, and she nabs this gig to write a piece on the It Hollywood actor Gabe Parker. And now Gabe has been in a bunch of Hollywood films. He's known to be like that Hollywood heartthrob, and who she herself, Chani, admits that she has had a crush on for like ever. So I think that's what makes the plot so fun, because who wouldn't give to have a day with their Hollywood crush? And essentially the whole book is the activities and events that happen in the 3 days that Gabe and Chani spend together. Lots of juicy drama, lots of fun, romantic tension, really fun. And then it fast forwards 10 years from now, and Chani rewrites her piece, and she's asked to do another story on Gabe. So they meet again 10 years from the date. So it's such a fun read. It's great for like a good weekend. It's a quick read. It's only, I think it's, right over 300 pages. Really quick, easy read. And Alyssa Sussman really pulls the reader in, because a lot of this book has these little gossip columns. Like you'll see these little snippets from these celebrity articles. Like this one's titled "Go Fug F-U-G Yourself, the fashion at the Shared Hearts premiere." So this makes it really fun. It pulls the reader in, and I just loved how Alyssa Sussman's writing is so clever in this. This was such a good time, such a good weekend read. I would 100% recommend Funny You Should Ask. So The Strange Sally Diamond by Liz Nugent. Oh man, this really gave me the heebie-jeebies. It pulled me in from the beginning, but I found myself just really getting turned off by this book. A lot of these scenes were hard to read. So this is the story of a girl. Her name is Sally. She's kind of that neurodivergent type, kind of awkward. You learn throughout the story why she has so many emotional issues, and that is really the tough part of the book to read. I don't want to give any spoilers away here, but she has had a very traumatic childhood, to say the least. And then also there's some other emotionally disturbing scenes in this, so I would definitely read the trigger warnings. This was hard to read for me. It was dark, it was shocking, it was everything. If you like, I don't know, if you like to be, I was gonna say if you like to be disturbed, you would like this. But I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I do like some gruesome scenes and some disturbing like horror books, but this was a little too much for me. I didn't really have fun with this. I really did feel for Sally in this. I did have like a connection to her. I always loved those like neurodivergent type reads. I loved Molly the Maid. I loved Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. Loved that book so much. That's one of my favorites, but this was really deeply disturbing, and I found myself not wanting to finish this. But this is essentially the story of Sally's life and what she's been through. Throughout her life, she starts to get these like strange packages that give her clues on what happened in her childhood. So that does pull the reader in. It was definitely a gripping book, but just too hard for me to read. I wouldn't recommend. Maybe if you look at the trigger warnings and you'd be okay with some of them, you might like this. It was definitely a favorite by a lot of people, but I did not really enjoy this. Next up, let's talk about Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak. Man, this was so good. This was like a dark, haunting, supernatural thriller. I love this. I actually want to buy the physical copy. I read this on Libby, and I cannot get some of these pictures out of my mind. Purchasing the book is worth it, even just for the fact to have these pictures, to go back to these pictures to see. So this story is essentially about a boy named Teddy. So he's in the care of Mallory. She's a recovering addict that was sent to live with the Maxwells to be Teddy's nanny. And strange things start to happen at the house, and mainly with Teddy, this young boy. So every time Mallory sends Teddy for quiet time, Mallory finds these dark, like disturbing pictures in Teddy's room, and she starts to question things because these pictures are almost so detailed and so like elaborate with the shadows and everything. She's like, there's no way a 5-year-old would be able to draw these pictures, and the pictures just get creepier and creepier. Oh my gosh. I had goosebumps the whole time I was reading this. I thought this was so good. I was so just enthralled with everything with Mallory, because her being like a recovering addict, everything she went through and how she's trying to get her life back together. I felt like I really connected with her. And the whole time you're just wondering like, what the heck is going on with this kid? Is it him? Is it something in the house? Is it Mallory? Is it the parents? Is it the neighbors? You're just guessing the whole time, and the ending will blow you away. I gave this a 4-star on Goodreads. I will say I would have given it a 5-star, but there was a plot hole that kind of pissed me off. I wish he would have included this little aspect about the family. It would have cleared up a lot of more things, and I think if you read this book, I think that would make sense to you. I don't want to go into it because it would definitely spoil something, but big plot hole, so I subtracted a star, but it was such a fun read. Next up, let's talk about Butcher and Blackbird by Bryn Weaver. I read this on Libby. Let me know if you guys have the same availability with your Libby. I know with the app, certain libraries don't have as many available reads, but is that across the board with their available now reads? Like, I'm not really sure, but I know Butcher and Blackbird has been available since the start of last year, so it's available for download for free now. It's a good, worthwhile read if you're into horror, but I will say I missed a lot of the romance factor from, what are these two characters' names? They're Sloane and Rowan. So Sloane and Rowan are these two vigilante killers that are out to get these murderous, monstrous people that are getting away with these horrible crimes. And I did enjoy the whole like chase of this read. It was really fun to hear like if Sloane got to the murder scene first or if Rowan got there. So they were kind of like up against each other the whole time, which made it fun. Really spicy. The spice scenes, were they intense? So the spice was definitely fun, but I missed a lot of like the background story between Sloane and Rowan. Like, you're telling me these people are murderers and you're not going to tell me anything about their childhood traumas? Like, I need to know their backstory. I also needed to know more backstory about the monstrous murderers that they were after. I needed to know why the retaliation was needed. Like, if I would have heard about, like, in the one scene they talk about this pedophile. So of course, who doesn't want to beat the living crap out of a pedophile? But I needed to know more about how they found out about the killer, more of the background stories of each of these horrible people. I think that would have made these retaliation killings that much more powerful, and I would have been more engaged and pulled into these stories. So it was a fun read, but like, I don't think it's worth the time. I really don't. It was lacking so much detail about these criminals. It would have made it, again, so much more powerful if the author would have included that. So yeah, lacking a lot in this book, but it was fun, but just, I didn't think it was worth my time. The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. Yes, I love this book. This was such a good read. If you're looking for a fun, easy summer read, this is it. So West is going to be the heir to this big food conglomerate company that their family owns. And Anna is a starving artist that works in a corner store. She is really funny in this book. I really enjoyed her character. So Anna makes this agreement with West. Wes has this contractual obligation that was in his grandfather's will that he is to be happily married for at least 5 years before he can have access to his trust funds. So Wes meets Anna, they make this agreement, okay, let's get married behind the scenes. They tell their families they're both married, but their families don't meet each other. There's a big family wedding in Wes's family, and Wes finally is like, okay, Anna, I gotta show you off to my family. I gotta show my family that I'm actually married. So Wes takes her to this overseas wedding. The wedding is gorgeous, lots of extravagant scenes. The setting is everything. Everything about this book was just so fun. Again, the setting, the flirty banter, the back and forth between the two of these characters, the slow burn. This was so good. And it had a really great message in the end that money is essentially not everything. And I just love this. I love this book so much. I would definitely recommend it. So yeah, a really great rom-com. If you love Succession, again, I think you would love this. It has that family drama that's centered around money, but it doesn't have that political aspect that Succession has. Really fun, lighthearted rom-com. Love this so much. One of my new favorites. All right, guys, so that's it here for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on some of these books that I talked about. Did you guys love them? Did you hate them? I gotta know. And also let me know what your current reads are. What are you reading this summer? Are you just reading like light rom-coms? Are you more into darker stuff? I tend to mix it up. I go back and forth, but I always like to like throw in a rom-com in the summer. I love like light reads. So I will say Funny You Should Ask is such a good summer read. I really love this. And I know this is kind of old news, but I still think it's such a staple summer romance. This was my favorite recent read. I love this so much. So definitely give It Happened One Summer a chance. And let me know your favorite Tessa Bailey's too. I had so much fun with her writing. I could not put this down. So let me know your favorites from her. I'd love to know. But thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.